Okay, great. We are back. So now we are going to hear from Jeff Finney. He is the founder of Ultimate Cabinet Components in Collinsville, Oklahoma. He started practicing lean principles about 3 or 4 years ago, and he's continuing to this day. He's going to share with us the pillars of lean, how to get started and keep it going. He's going to give us some examples of lean at his shop, which I think are really impressive. It's nice to see things in action, and just tell us a little bit about his journey. So again, throughout the presentations, add questions to the question box. Jeff will join us after his presentation to answer those questions. And so let's hear from Jeff.
Well, welcome to this talk on practical lean. My name is Jeff Finney, and I'll kind of be the guide today. And basically, we're going to go through my experiences in lean manufacturing, how we started, how we use lean, and kind of my view and take on lean. First of all, I want to thank the WCMA for having me on to have this talk. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to giving this talk, and then at the end of it, we will have a Q&A session, so feel free to write down your questions as we go through this, and I'm an open book at the end, so feel free to ask me anything you'd like. So again, my name is Jeff Finney. My company is Ultimate Cabinets Components, and we mill custom cabinets in our local market, and we also cut parts for ready-to-assemble frameless cabinet boxes in other markets around the U.S., and we flat pack ship those to other cabinet makers for European-style frameless cabinets. We started in, here we go, slides are catching up. Okay, so a little bit about my history of my company. We started in 2005. We had a very small shop. We started out just doing custom residential face frame cabinets in our local market. And in 2014, we began to mill components, ready to assemble flat pack frameless components, and selling those online to other cabinet makers. Currently, we have 18 employees, and we're still growing. And we started our lean kind of journey in 2017 when we moved into our shop that we're in currently. It was a really nice start-stop point for us to get into lean. So my first shop was my house that I moved into right out of college. Milled them in that garage right there, and we would build cabinets, carry them into our guest bedroom, stack them. That's where we started. This was our first real shop. It was our second place we was at for like the next 13 years. It's about an 8,000 square foot facility, and we did a lot of work out of that little shop. So the current facility we are in is closer to town. It's about 25,000 square feet, and we're getting to the point where we're already maxing that one out as far as size. So that's why we continue to focus on lean, is just to better use our square footage that we've got. That's one of the reasons we continue to strive to do better in lean. So first of all, when we jump in, or before we jump into lean, kind of my philosophy about lean is it's a very simple idea to do, but so many other companies or other lean consultants, they tend to make it very hard, make it a lot about the jargon, a lot about the math. And me, I'm just more of, it's a philosophy. It's a lifestyle. And I feel like if you start lean as a means to a better bottom line, then I think ultimately you're going to end up with a failure on your hands, because you can't start it with the bottom line in mind. You've got to start it with the focus of efficiency and productivity. So, and removing waste from your system. That's probably the biggest component of it. And that's how we approach it. It's more of a lifestyle than just about the bottom line. The bottom line is kind of the end result. So where I got started was, somebody told me about a book from Paul Akers called 2 Second Lean. Fantastic book. I read it in one day. I've read it twice. I've listened to the audio book twice. It's such a simple way of looking at lean, and it really aligned with how we approached lean. So his basic method is we follow the 3S method, which is sweep, sort, standardize. We do this every single day. We do it first thing in the morning. And essentially what it is Every morning we sweep our areas. We get all the junk and cardboard and trash and dust out of the area every day. We sort our workstations, meaning we put new inventory in them. We put our tools back where they belong. And then we standardize, meaning every day we go through our general workspaces and we find items or tools or materials or inventory that don't belong in that area, and we get rid of them for good. So you do that every day, and it becomes part of your process. And we start work at 7 a.m. We do this from 7 to 7:30. Generally, the 3S portion of it is only about 15 minutes. The other 15 minutes is just them kind of getting ready for their day, getting their paperwork around, that kind of thing, just getting ready to start production. But we definitely hold that first 30 minutes of the day as very important to getting our day started on the right foot. And it does not matter how busy we are, that 30 minutes always happens at the first of the day. And I think that's kind of one of our pillars that make Lean successful in our organization. So, speaking of pillars of Lean for us, the first pillar is learning how to eliminate waste. And there was a great saying that I heard somewhere along the way of my journey was, you can't unsee waste. And that's such a big component of it, because we're so used to walking through our own shops and our own facilities, and we kind of just are able to walk through and not see the waste that's actually there every day. And I was guilty of it. But once you start seeing that waste in your process, you can't unsee it. And all of a sudden you're just motivated to do something about it. And waste is not just trash. Waste is motion, downtime, defects. You know, there's kind of the 8 wastes that you can look up and learn about yourself. But for us, it was the major ones were motion and defects and just waste in general, just trash. That was the big ones for us that we was able to eliminate. Okay, so the second pillar of Lean for our shop is continuous improvement. This one's a little tricky because sometimes people view continuous improvement as these large steps of improvements, these big blocks. And really, it's not about that at all. For us, it's about these tiny micro improvements that add up into something bigger along the way. As an owner, I can make these giant improvements and they'll stick because I understand and I've made the system myself. But for an employee, a micro step is much easier because they don't have an owner's mindset per se, and they are going to do a lot better just fixing what bugs them every single day. So when we started, we just started making small improvements based off of Paul Akers' book, 2-Second Lean, meaning every day we try to improve our efficiency or productivity or waste by 2 seconds. Something made our job 2 seconds easier. And it was so simple. And a lot of these things were very simple as far as just, moved a tool out of my area today that didn't belong there. 2-second improvement. The next day it may be removed a piece of inventory out of my area that didn't belong there. 2-second improvement. Next day it may be a jig or a pokey yoke or something that a visual cue that reminded them how to do their job better. So when you're talking about continuous improvement, don't think about these as huge strides. These are just small, minimal things that we're doing every day that add up to be huge down the road. The third one, that the way we look at it, is we're always looking at how can we add more customer value. And by adding customer value, I think this is paramount, because if you get down to the root of it, a customer only pays you for your product. They don't pay you for everything in between. So your responsibility as an owner is to, or even an operator, your responsibility is to reduce the waste and increase your productivity and efficiency so that ultimately you're giving the customer the maximum value, which is what they're paying for. That's all they're paying for is your product. They're not paying for all the waste and nonsense in between. So I see it as our responsibility as business owners to be lean and to add customer value through eliminating waste and continuous improvement. And anything that you have waste built into the process, basically you're robbing the customer from their value. So how do we get started? To me, on mine, getting started was actually the easiest part. I kind of warned all the employees that we were getting ready to head in this direction. And then the big thing is just rock the boat. I mean, just if everybody's set in their ways and set in their ways of doing things, you need to really shake it up, because things are going to change. Thought processes need to be changed out of that kind of batch and queue mentality. So for us, how we started at Ultimate Cabinet Components, if you don't use it, you lose it. The big clean out was we backed a couple of dumpsters up to the shop, and anything in the shop that we wasn't using at the time, scrap or leftovers, or maybe bad pieces that we were trying to hold for something else, or even tools that we hadn't used in forever, we just got rid of it. And we purged the shop of everything. And it was amazing the amount of nonsense that went out of that shop. And we made a separate pile for things that we thought we may keep, and we put a time limit on there. We literally put a sign on the pallet that said, if not gone by this date, discard. And we ended up discarding it. You know, things like hardware that we hadn't used in years. It's amazing how these things add up. But these things create waste in the process that you don't realize, because you're having to sift through these products to get the product that you're trying to find. So the big clean out, I feel, for an organization that's just starting lean is super necessary, because you have to have kind of a blank slate to start from, kind of to build on. We had to retool a little bit, and I'm not talking about major retooling like machinery and equipment. I'm talking about minor things like little things like drills, screwdrivers, brooms at each station, just little things. We started realizing real quickly that we had all these people, but we didn't have enough tools to actually man the stations correctly. And it seems so elementary, but I was surprised to find out that how little each area had, that they couldn't do their own job. They was going to different areas to fetch tools, and then they wouldn't take them back, so that area would be short. So that was one of the first things that we did, was each area kind of made their dream list of what they needed, and then we chopped it down to what they actually needed, and went and bought it. And it ended up being a very small ticket as far as money went, but it was huge in productivity, because now each area has their own tools. And a little side note on that, we now color code each area with colored electrical tape. So each area, like each workbench has got its own color, the edge bander area's got its own color, the CNC's got its own color. That way, if something wanders from their area, we just call it, if it's floating out in space, we know where to return it, so it goes back to the right area when they do their cleanup the next morning. So generally speaking, every morning you reset that color coding, goes back to their own area. So really simple little tool there, and it works. You'd be amazed how well it works and how quickly it works. Third thing, which again is trivial, it seems like, but we made cleaning easy. Cleaning is a huge part of lean being effective in an organization over the long haul, and I believe that. So cleaning has to be not only a priority, but you have to make it easy. What I started noticing is one of the biggest reasons that we had a dirty shop was that we had at the time, we had a 8,000 square foot shop that had 3 brooms in it. Well, if you're having to go look for a broom and tramps all over the shop to find one, then you're probably not going to clean. So very simply, we just made these little boards that you hung the broom and the dustpan on, and there's one in every area, and we've probably got 20 or 30 brooms now to where you don't have to walk more than a few feet to get a broom. And I know that seems simple, but it is such a big part of lean to keep your whole shop, your machinery, your equipment, everything clean. It just makes everything else so much easier if you start out with a clean palette. We started our 7 a.m. routine, which I hinted on earlier, and a little bit more about that. So we started at just 15 minutes because we didn't think we really needed 30. But now we find that we use that full 30 minutes, and it really gears us up for the day. At first, you will use that 30 minutes just to probably get your areas clean and standardized. That's a big part of getting going. But once you get there, once you kind of get your areas standardized, it's very easy every morning just to reset it. But my reason for doing it in the morning rather than the afternoon is I've always felt like at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is clean. I just want to get done with my work and kind of go home. So, but in the mornings, it seems like it's a mindset thing, but in the mornings, it's a lot easier to clean because you're just getting there, you're just getting started. And that's kind of how you're kind of setting the tone for your morning. You're kind of easing into your work rather than just jumping into production right off the bat. The other thing during that 30 minutes is we do have a lot of machinery. So that's the time where, let's say, for instance, the CNC area, they clean their area in 10 minutes, they're really ready to go, but they really spend the rest of that time inspecting the machine. Once a week, they pull the covers off the machine to make sure that there's nothing wrong underneath it. And it's a time that we do a lot of preventative maintenance, and we have found a lot of issues before they ever happened because of our 7 o'clock routine. And we have saved so many downtimes on our CNC alone just by doing these equipment walkarounds and thorough cleanings on a daily basis. So that 7 a.m. routine, I think, is super critical. It's right up there with keeping everything clean in the shop. It's for me, it's a have to. It's not something we skip. It's not something we miss. It's just part of our workday, no questions asked. So when we started also, we had what was called an improvement board. And this was something simple. We had a piece of whiteboard left over from a job that was about 5 foot long and about 4 foot tall. And we put a Sharpie marker on it. And we started every day. We would meet at that board at 7 o'clock. And every single person had to write down one improvement, 1 2-second improvement. And I'll just tell you right now, half of the improvements were absolutely silly, just little bitty improvements. But what I started noticing is after we got to about 60 or 70 improvements, we really started to get into the meat of improvements where they were really improving processes, jigs, improving their work zones to where they can get everything closer to where they were at right then. And that's when it really started kicking off. We don't use the improvement board as much now because we're kind of in our own little routine, but we used it for the first 2 or 3 months solid. And man, it was amazing how much it could help, or how much it helped with just knowing that everybody was on board for improvements. And it kind of forced everybody to get in that mindset because it is a change of thinking. It's a different way of doing things. So you want to just write those improvements down just to keep them on track while you're getting that as part of your culture in your shop. So tell you something we do on a weekly basis at our shop. We generally do this on Wednesdays. Sometimes the employees kind of roll their eyes at me when we do this over and over, but it's a game that we do that takes about 5 minutes. And at the end of it, every week we generally get something good come out of it, some minor change in the process that makes things a little better. And we simply call it the customer game. We've been doing this for about 1.5 years, and I have noticed such a difference in the culture of the shop and how employees treat employees in other areas. We generally would have this issue if something was messed up, that area would take it back to the area before them and just kind of slam it on the table, say, fix this, and it was a cultural problem that we had with defects and things like that. And ever since we've started this customer game, that has gone away, and we have got more into this, how can I help the next person in line? And that's basically what the customer game is. The customer game is whoever's at station 1, their customer is station 2, and so on and so forth. And this goes through the process. So we line everybody up in the order that they are in the shop. And then we just start going down through the process. I ask the CNC, who's your customer? And they say the edge bander. Who's the edge bander's customer? The dowel machine. Who's the dowel machine's customer? Assembly. And so on and so forth, all the way down to the end of the cabinet. And then the outfit, what we call outfit, some people call finish, some people call door drawer, whatever you want to call it, but like kitting, whatever you want to call it. Your final process, we consider their customer to be sales. We put our salespeople as responsible for their product. So they have to check their product. They have to make sure that it's complete. They have to make sure it's packaged to their liking, because each salesperson kind of has their own thing. So outfit, kind of, they look to sales saying, okay, I'm done with mine. You're my customer. This is how I'm going to present my product to my customer. And then ultimately delivery has our paying customer as their customer. So their goal is to get the product on site, delivered correctly, or shipped to them correctly in a complete manner where it's perfect when they get it. And that has had such an impact, just that game has had such an impact in our shop and our culture that I can't even explain it. Now what happens when we play this game, a lot of times the edge bander will talk to the CNC and say, hey, if you could restack the shelves on top and the end panels on the bottom, when I grab them, they'll be opposite of that, and the panels will go on top, and they'll be sorted for the dowel machine already, and I won't have to do that sorting, whereas the CNC can do that right by themselves. And then that started a cascading effect through every area. They're like, oh, wait, hey, I could have my parts sorted for me when I get them. And then all of a sudden, every area is doing that, and I had nothing to do with it. It was all just part of that game, and then it just evolved into them understanding that, hey, this is my customer. How can I make my customer more happy? And it truly is a game that works, and it's a game that if you just keep doing it repetitively, all of a sudden you'll start noticing that they adopt that mindset and that mentality. So wanted to throw just a few numbers in here. I know that everybody loves percentages, and I don't track everything down to the letter, but I'm pretty close. And I can tell you that how lean has helped our shop, and the lean mindset has helped our shop. You know, we're more profitable, we get more product through, and we have measurable gains that happen on a regular basis with us. So right now, we've actually gained 35% of our square footage back for the growth that we've put on. So since we've moved into our new shop 3 years ago, we've doubled in size, but we use 35% less square foot. So the true gain of square foot is probably more than that, but physical square footage, we are using 35% less, yet we're doing almost double the volume we did when we moved in there. And that is a huge testament to what lean does. We just keep shrinking those batch sizes. We keep shrinking the amount of length that it takes to get from point A to point B. And it's just amazing that you can keep cutting that in half, and you can cut that in half again. But that took time. That took 3 years to get to that point of where we was able to keep cutting, and now we're down to cutting smaller percentages rather than 50%. So square foot gain is huge, because that essentially is unused capacity that we can use later when we keep growing the company, or as we keep growing the company. We have had a 75% increase in dollars output per shop floor employee. So this is something we roughly measure just to make sure that we kind of have the right ratio of work to employee mix, and we don't have too many employees on the shop floor or too little for the workload coming up. And this is probably one of the amazing parts about lean, is just when you start stripping out that waste, and you start stripping out the work in progress, you start stripping out the inventory, and you're just getting down to kind of what you're working on right now. You're creating a better quality parts, you're creating better quality pieces, you're creating them on a fixed timeline, and all of a sudden you'll notice that dollar output per employee will just keep going through the roof. And we continue to work on that. We kind of speculate by the middle of next year, this number is going to be 100%. So we're going to have a 100% increase since we've started. And I'm not going to be surprised if we won't get well above 100% by the time we're done. But this is definitely a conservative number of where we're actually at from where we started. So that was one that was a kind of a side effect that I didn't realize was going to be that big of an impact. One of the great things that it did, especially from the sales perspective, is we stabilized our lead times. Basically, our lead times up until we really got into lean, our lead times were totally based off of how much work we had. So if the hopper was full, we was probably in that 5 to 6 week lead time. And then we've made a goal to chop our lead times down to 4 weeks and make it fixed. And once we achieve that, we realized that we could do better. So we chopped that down to 3 weeks, which is where we're at now. And on a lot of our component-based business, our RTA stuff, we're down to 10 or 12 days of working time, and depending on the material. So we've been able to stabilize those lead times because we have fixed processes. We have kind of a linear fixed flow through the shop, and really all it takes to ramp up is to add people to those stations to kind of get more hands on the product. So we can kind of keep up with those ebbs and flows that you have with your product just way easier with lean, because it's so much easier to ramp up and rep down because you're kind of just turning the dial a little bit rather than having to add a ton of people and add all this training and all this inventory and this work in progress to get the system ginned up to handle the more workload. So by having smaller batch sizes, smaller inventory, smaller work in progress, you're able to kind of treat your business like a dial and just kind of turn it up as the work comes in more consistently. So again, shaved our lead times from 5 weeks to 3 weeks, and we are able to keep that pretty consistent, and maybe only go up a half a week if we get really, really busy. But then within a couple of weeks, we've got it right back down to that 3 week lead time. So that was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing feat, if you ask me. So next, I want to kind of get into maybe just a few of the things that we got in our shop. I took a few pictures of our shop, and again, before we get into that section, I want to just open my door and let you know that I field questions all the time about lean through emails. People call me. Some people even text me pictures of their shop and ask me if I got any ideas. I get to as many of them as I can. I'm always here to help because I'm just so passionate about this subject, and I'm passionate about making lean easy. I feel like there's too many organizations out there that make it too hard, and I just want to make lean easy because I want it to be more adopted across the woodworking industry. I feel like it's definitely gaining traction, and I feel like it's gaining speed, but it's still hard to implement because I think so many people make it a lot harder than what it really is. So I'm open door. At the end of this talk, there'll be all my contact information will be sent to you. So you're more than welcome to reach out via email, call, or text. Send me a question or a problem that you may have, and as I have time, I can help you work through it. But I like I said, I'm just kind of ate up with this subject, so I'm always curious to talk to other people that are starting or in it and bounce ideas off each other. So I'm an open book. So here's just a few pictures of some of the items that we do in our shop. This is one of our tooling holders and this happens to be at the edge bander area. We kind of have a standardized tool set that we have at every area. At this machine, there's actually two of these. You can't see the other one to the left, but it looks exactly like that. It's just got some specialized tools for that machine. And you can kind of see the black stuff there that's cut out. It's called Kaizen foam. If you've never heard of it, you can get it at Fast Cap, which is if you didn't know, 2 Second Lean is written by Paul Akers, which owns Fast Cap. He sells a ton of just lean products that you can use. From like the colored electrical tape that I was talking about to Kanban cards to helping your inventory by making your inventory all visually cued. Go to Fast Cap. Definitely log in there and look at all his lean products. He's got so many fantastic products. We buy Kaizen foam by the case. I mean, we've got it laying around. We've probably got 20 or 30 sheets of it at any time. As it gets old and tattered, we replace it often just so it looks nice and neat like this board does right here, because I like for it to all look really uniform, and I like for it to look new as much as possible. So that's kind of one of our tooling areas, and you can see the green tape around this one. So the edge bender is the green area. So again, if a pair of pliers goes missing and goes to a different area, it knows how to make its way back home, back to its board. So really simple. We've got these on the workbenches everywhere. We've probably got 10 of these or 12 of these throughout the shop. And then we've got multiple areas where we use Kaizen foam for about everything that needs a spot, a sander, a pencil, a pen, whatever, a drill bit, anything that needs a spot, we have a Kaizen foam area for it. That way it always knows, if there's an empty hole, there's something missing. This is one of our sample SOPs. I've actually got this template electronically on my website at altcab.com. It's one of my resources. Feel free to download it. You can have that for free. I believe it's a Google Doc and a Word doc format, so you can already have it. But I want to walk you through. This is a standard SOPs. SOPs to me are a big thing about keeping lean going, and it makes training and cross-training so much easier. So we do these very simple SOPs. Every SOP, standard operating procedure, by the way, if you didn't know what that was, every SOP is no more than 8 steps. So this one, for instance, is half mil PVC standard, and it walks you through the buttons you have to push on the bander to actually set it up, how to make the adjustment, and then how to start the bander for that program, and then how to kind of run the part. You'll notice that we've got the color coding on the side there in the blue. We try to color code as much stuff as we can. So blue may be all the PVC edge bandings, green may be all the veneer bandings, yellow may be for shutdown and startup. Just try to think about using color in any kind of visual cues that you're giving and make it standard across the board. That way when you're in every area, you know, they can look for their cleanup cues in yellow or orange or whatever you want to make it. So SOPs are such a great way to do it. These are scattered throughout our shop. And what I've found that SOPs do more than anything is when you're cross-training your employees, it gives them that refresher that they need. If somebody's sick in an area or they need help in an area, somebody from another area can help them that day, and they can just kind of get that quick refresher of how to run that machine. And it's, they have been an absolute lifesaver. We don't do them for every process in the shop. We're working in that direction. But we've probably got 100 SOPs right now scattered throughout the shop. And we kind of cover all the major facets of, for instance, on the CNC, how to change a tool, how to fly cut the spoil board, how to set up and shut down for the day, things like that. But SOPs, we make them simple. We don't put them electronic. We literally print these pictures. We use a printer called the HP Sprocket. And you take a picture, you Bluetooth it to that printer, it prints it right then, you stick it on the paper and you write a caption. And an SOP takes 15 minutes to make. So we don't complicate the process. And also we're not tied to them. So if we update them, we throw this one away and then we do another one. I mean, it's just a piece of paper and laminate. So again, any more information about that, reach out and I can send you more examples. I can send you an electronic copy of our SOP template, and we'd be happy to do that. This is something we've done recently. So this is actually, I'm sure you've seen these before if you've done any research on lean, kind of a Kanban board, task board, whatever you want to call it. But basically you just use Post-it notes and you move them along the board. And we do this one physically, not electronically, because we want to be able to actually, this is kind of a project board that we've got going in the shop. So these are larger improvement projects that we want to do. And we keep the do section full because there's always something big to do in the shop. And then as somebody has time, they come and take one of those Post-it notes, they put it over in doing and write their name on it that they're doing it. And then when they're done, they just put it on the done so management can see, oh, hey, they've done these improvement projects. So you can do these for anything you want. You could do these for scheduling. You could do these for deliveries. You could do this for a CNC board if you want to keep track of what jobs they've got coming up. You could do this for anything in your area, however you wanted to. We just happen to use this particular board just to track major improvements in the shop. Things like reorganizing a cell or putting in a new piece of equipment or a new workbench or something like that. Something a little more major than just that 2-second improvement. So again, any more examples on that, feel free to reach out and I can give you more examples or videos on how we use it. So rolling tables, these are kind of goofy looking. This is one of those things that we've used for the last 6 months, and we've got about 30 of these tables now. We have eliminated over 150 foot of conveyor by using these tables. And let me tell you how we use them. So in our local market, we actually still assemble boxes for some of our customers. We'll even put the doors and drawers on them. We'll build the full cabinet however they want them. So we build these tables to whenever they assemble them, they load them on these tables rather than a conveyor. And then the finished people will put the plates and the hinges and the glides on them, whatever, load them on these tables. And then those tables can just go roll right out to the delivery truck. and we will store those tables in the shipping area when the job is done. So you don't have to lift the cabinet up and down. You're not picking it up and setting it down another time after it's assembled. It never gets picked up again until it gets loaded either in a semi-truck or our delivery truck and goes out the door. And this improvement alone has increased our finish productivity and our delivery productivity to the point where we was on the border of having to hire another delivery truck. And now we have gained enough capacity where that's not even on the radar anymore to get another delivery person. So it has gained us that much time just between how much quicker it is to load a job. Everything is consolidated into just a couple of carts, and then you can just roll it right out to the truck, lift it in the truck, and it's gone. So it is so simple. Again, we've probably got 30 of these tables right now. They cost about $120 a piece to make, somewhere around there. And we just started with 4 or 5 and just kept eliminating conveyors, and we'd add a bench. And over the course of a couple months is what it took to build these benches. So again, you want any more pictures or clarity on that, on how we use them, be happy to give you more pictures. But that has been just, like I said, they're kind of goofy looking, but boy, they sure serve a great purpose. This is a small shot at our kitting area. It's actually a little bit dirty right now in this picture because they're probably right in the middle of a job. This was in the middle of the day. Normally, the inventory is on a little flat cart here on a pallet. They probably had just emptied that pallet. This was a rather large job. But normally, they just have a pallet here of inventory for that day. But you can see it comes right off of our OMO machine, which is to the right, and that's our doweling machine that we use lock dowel, which is those green fasteners. So this kit job actually has hardware put on it, which we don't do a lot of, but every now and then we do it for some customers. We'll pre-apply the hardware, we'll wrap it up, package the whole kit, and send it on. But the kitting area is so small. It's 12 feet total in length, and when it leaves that area, that cabinet is fully kitted and ready to assemble. And we do kitting throughout the shop on any of our products. By the time it gets to a certain point, it has to be kitted up, meaning everything for cabinet number 1 is right there in that stack, and so on and so forth, cabinet 2, cabinet 3, and so on. We don't sort off of a cart, or we don't sort later in the process. We start sorting at the CNC machine from the get-go, and it is finished by the time it's finished sorted by the time it gets to the dowel machine. So the dowel machine is a batch 1 operation, essentially. It is doweling one cabinet at a time, and then it puts that whole cabinet on the conveyor to be final kitted and wrapped, and then it goes onto a pallet. No more handling. So we have knocked the kitting process down from something that happened at the very end to something that happens at the very beginning. And we call it a $1, $10, $100. So the earlier we can get that problem fixed, if there's a problem in the kit, the earlier we get that pegged, the cheaper it is. And the farther it goes through the process, it goes up by tenfold. So, a broken part at the first, and we catch it and we can fix it, that's $1. It costs maybe the company $1. But if it goes halfway through the process and we don't catch it, it's going to cost us $10. And then if it goes out the door and a customer catches, costs us $100. And that's kind of the way we look at every part. And, that's just another one of those mentality game things that we will play during our customer game. I'll continually throw that in there about the $1, $10, $100, and see how many mistakes we've been having late in the process. So the earlier you can push the kitting process, the more you're going to win. Another thing that we've just recently started is inbound. This is kind of towards the end of the day, so our inbound is pretty empty. The night shift comes in and they'll fill this rack back up. But basically we sort 4 jobs at a time. That's it. We don't put more than 4 jobs in that rack at a time because that's about how many we can run in a day. And so they'll fill this rack up at night with the next jobs. But then as it gets empty, they just can plop another job package in there of all the panels that they need to cut. We've got this in every area. We've got these in the hardwood areas. We've got this in the hardware areas, so we know when to order hardware. So it's kind of just a visual cue of when, if this rack is empty, then we know it needs to be filled up and the CNC needs something to do. So we want to keep that operator just sheet after sheet after sheet. We don't want him to have to go fetch materials and load his own materials. and load his own job packs. So something real simple that we do right there. We call these the inbound racks. So buffers, I won't go into this too deep, but we've created buffers that some jobs, like our local jobs here that we build here locally in our market, we put them on job carts still. Eventually they'll be on conveyor, but right now they're in job carts. So on the floor, we've actually just got these simple little blue tape buffer slots. So when there's 4 slots going to the right of this picture, when those 4 slots are full, the CNC stops milling. And that is such a tough thing to do. But they quit milling, and then as soon as the slot's freed up, they start back up again, and they fill that slot up. The only reason we do that is because we only have the one big CNC machine, and if something was to happen, we've got a little bit of a buffer there to buy us 3 or 4 days or 2 or 3 days or whatever it is of product. We've kind of got established in that buffer, so if something happens, we can kind of get a part in and get it fixed. And this has been a great deal to help control inventory, keep your work in progress low, but always have something in that buffer so the areas ahead of them have plenty of work that they can do, and they can just go job after job. So we do buffers in every major area of the shop: doors, frames, hardwood. They've all got their own little buffer, and they are pretty small. They're usually only a day or 2 days worth of work at the most. Any more than that, it's just waste. It's just inventory that's sitting there that's not doing anything, that's liable to have defects. So I highly encourage you, if you use buffers, use them wisely and start out pretty small if you can. So that is the last slide of my presentation. Hopefully they gave you kind of enough real world examples to at least get your mind spinning. Again, I'm an open book, so feel free to text me if you have a certain solution or certain problem that you're looking at, and I may already have a solution for it that we've done in our shop, and I'd be happy to share that with you. Again, lean is way more than just the bottom line. I will guarantee you, if you put it in and you implement it and you make it part of your culture, your bottom line will be affected positively. You will appreciate what it does to your bottom line. However, if you make that the goal, it's really hard to keep it going. So just get started. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to contact me and reach out anytime. Looking forward to some questions, and I hope you enjoyed the speech.
Okay, we're going to have Jeff join us. Thank you all. I apologize for the technical issues at the beginning there. It was frustrating. We were patting ourselves on the back of how well things were going, and then of course that's when it comes back to bite you, right?
Yeah, leave it to me to throw a kink in things. So.
All right. If anybody has any questions for Jeff, please add them to the question area. Jeff, how's business been?
Overall, it's been really good. You know, we had a couple slow months there in July and August. Since then, we've picked right back up and, you know, had some really great months to kind of make up for that. So, I mean, overall, I think we're very fortunate, you know, to kind of be in that essential worker category. And so, yeah, fortunately, we've had a really pretty decent year of it.
Good. And you seem to find quite a bit of time to not only practice lean, but you like to share with others. You know, I've seen you have articles at Working Network, things like that, which I think is great because, like you said, our industry it has been slower to adapt lean practices than some other industries.
Yeah, and that was, you know, for me, I just like sharing about it because, you know, I'm passionate. It's easy for me to talk about it. You know, I enjoy it. So, you know, I talk about it on my podcast, or I talk about it in my blog articles when I can, just to try to help other people. And really, it's sometimes the hardest part is just finding the information, you know, and if we can try to make it easier for people to find the information, that makes life a little better.
Right. Sure. Good. Okay. I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Let me just... so I'll be sure to share with our attendees how they can get in touch with you. Share your blog information if they want to follow that is good. And And yeah, if you have anything else that you want to let them know, feel free.
That's it. I appreciate everybody joining us for it. Yeah, again, this is a great event, and the Air Meet deal is really cool. So look forward to more of these kind of online events like that. It's a nice deal.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, thanks for joining us.
Have a good day. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So that ends our first day. Again, apologize for the technical difficulties there. We will start again tomorrow at the same time. We've got some great plants tomorrow. We've got Inova Bed, which is they really practice some of the lean practices that Jeff was just talking about. So that's going to tie nicely together. We've got a presentation from the Real American Hardwood Promotion Coalition. That is a coalition of associations that are trying to educate the consumer about the benefits of real hardwood over the substitutes. And then we've got our speaker on the economic outlook from ITR Economics at the end of the day. So you'll have a second link in the email that we sent you. So make sure that you follow that second link for day 2. You should be able to jump right in. We will leave the lounge open for about 30 minutes. If you'd like to sit at the tables and chat with each other, feel free to do that. And if you have any questions or you've had any difficulties or anything, just let us know. You can email myself or Marge, either one. Looking forward to see you tomorrow, and thanks for joining us.